Yo, what's the word, boys? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be ranking UFC champions from worst to best. A lot of people are not going to like this list, but it's the real, correct, truthful list. First up, we need to discuss the criteria. I have 4 bullet points. It's crucial that you guys understand the criteria so you understand why I put certain fighters in certain placements. I think this is the perfect list. It was difficult to come up with, but I love it. First criteria is skill set. If you're the best champion in the world, you have to have a crazy good skill set. Are you well-rounded? Can you mix it in? Can you strike? Can you box? You know what I mean. Next up, ability to win. Ability to win is important. If you're struggling in a fight, can you pull off a finish? Can you stack wins upon wins upon wins? That's important. That is an important factor. You can discredit someone's skill set all you want, but if they keep winning, who gives a fuck? Next up, activity. Activity is absolutely crucial because if you are not fighting, how are we supposed to know how good you really are? If you're fighting, for example, twice in 4 years, do we really know how good you are? You know, when you stack yourself up against the competition? Maybe not. And lastly is recent wins. Who are you beating right now? You can claim to be the best champion in the UFC right now, but if you're beating Parker Porter, are you the best champion? Yeah, you are. No, I'm kidding. But like on some real shit, you need to beat great fighters to prove you are one of the best champions in the UFC. Like, subscribe. The background's going to be different for like the next month or so. The lighting might be bad, but it's okay. Let's start off with the worst champion. I have Belal Muhammad. I don't want to come off as a Belal hater, guys, because I'm a big fan of Belal. I was very, very excited for his fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov, one of my most anticipated fights for the rest of 2024, and I think he's a very good champion. The UFC champions of today are the best champions, so if I have you as the worst champion, the second to worst champion, it's not a diss on you. I think all of these champions are so damn good, actually. I think right now, the champions we have in the UFC are spectacular. But with Belal Muhammad, I just don't think he's elite in anything. His skill set is for sure solid. Is it very well-rounded? I wouldn't say so. His wrestling and his pressure wrestling is very good. His cardio is very good, but his striking isn't the greatest. His kickboxing isn't the greatest. His defensive striking is solid. He showed it against the Leon Edwards fight, but it's not the most well-rounded and elite skill set we've seen in UFC history. Now, if Belal's grappling and wrestling was on the level of Khabib, okay, I wouldn't really look at his striking all too much, but his skill set is good. It's well-rounded to an extent, but he's not really elite in anything. His ability to win is pretty solid. He's on a crazy unbeaten streak right now. I think it might be 13 fights in a row. I might be wrong, but his ability to win is very good. Activity isn't crazy. He's not fighting, 3-4 times a year like Alex Pereira. No. And his recent wins are solid. That Leon Edwards win is definitely a solid win on your resume, but hindsight is 50-50, of course. When I look at that Leon Edwards fight, I feel like that matchup was low-key tailor-made towards Belal Muhammad. Leon Edwards, he breaks in fights, sort of. You could pressure him. You could use your cardio. You could back him up against the cage. And Leon looked really, really bad. Maybe that's credit to Belal Muhammad, but ultimately I thought stylistically Belal should take that fight. So overall, Belal is a very good champion. It sucks that he has to go last. He's just not elite in anything. He's good in everything, but he's not elite in everything. I want to see Belal Muhammad evolve in his striking game, continue to use that grappling and wrestling, continue to use it because it is a very big weapon that he has. I want to see him fight other skill sets, more well-rounded guys, maybe guys who are very good in the grappling department. And that's why I was so excited to see that Shavkat Rakhmonov performance, because that was a massive test to Belal. If he beats a Shavkat, this fucker is legit. He is a legit fighter. But for now, I have to put Belal in the number 9 spot. It sucks. He's the worst champion we have right now, in my opinion. Moving on to number 8. You guys are not going to like this, but I have the heavyweight champion of the world, Jon Jones. You guys are going to hate on this ranking. It's okay. I think he is the second worst champion we have in the UFC right now. And I think when you really dive into it, it is a valid take. How could I put Jon Jones higher when, for one, he doesn't fight? He just simply isn't active. It's the fact of the matter is he fought pretty much twice in 4 years. How could I put him higher when he is openly ducking, in my opinion, the best fighter in the division? And I don't even think his skill set is that elite anymore. It's 2024. It isn't 2015. He's not the greatest fighter. He still is the best fighter I've ever seen. But right now, I think he's pretty slow. I think his boxing is very, very poor. I think he just doesn't do that well against a guy like Tom Aspinall. His recent wins aren't good at all. He beat 42-year-old Stipe Miocic. Okay, cool. You took him 3 rounds to finish him. If you add up Tom Aspinall's fight time for his past 5 fights and you add them all together, they're less than what Jon Jones did to Stipe Miocic. He's slow. His boxing isn't great. He doesn't have a ton of power. Sure, his grappling and wrestling is very good, but when you really look at it, I don't think Jon Jones is that good right now. He doesn't fight. He's not active. His recent wins aren't good. He doesn't want to fight the best guy on his division. He is, I guess you could say, one-dimensional right now in terms of skill set because his striking outside of his kickboxing isn't very good. I was struggling to put Jon Jones any higher because when you look at the criteria, how could I put him higher when he's severely lacking in a lot of departments? It's that simple. Now, if Jon Jones was still a prime Jon Jones and his skill set was still the absolute best in the world, but he just wasn't fighting a lot, I'd give him a break, but he isn't fighting. He is significantly worse than he used to be, and he is openly ducking the best guy in his division. So how could I put him any higher than number 8 and the second worst champion in the UFC? I simply cannot do it. But let's move on to number 8. Where is he? Number 7, excuse me. I have Dricus du Plessis. I was struggling to find a spot for Dricus because I do think he's good. He's just a very weird fighter. I don't think he's the most skilled champion in the world. He is well-rounded, though. He can mix in the grappling. He can mix in the wrestling. He seems to find his way on the feet sometimes, even when he's fighting some of the best strikers in the UFC. He's an active fighter. He isn't fighting all the time, but he's an active fighter. He finds ways to win. That is Dricus du Plessis' bread and butter. He finds ways to win, even if it's not the most stylish and not the most glitzy, glamoury win ever. He finds ways to win, and his skill set is well-rounded. It isn't the glitz and the glamour, as I said earlier, but it is well-rounded. He can mix in kind of everything. It is sloppy, but he has a solid skill set, and his recent wins are amazing. So Dricus, even though he isn't absolutely elite, he checks every box, and he is pretty high level in every box. He fights a lot. His skill set is well-rounded, even though it's pretty sloppy. His recent wins are amazing, and he finds ways to win. And he's fought a bunch of different stylistic matchups. He's fought the Sean Stricklands. He's fought the Robert Whitakers. He's fought the Israel Adesanyas. Now he just needs to fight maybe a predominantly grappling-based guy. But Dricus, he's sloppy to look at. Sometimes it's like, what the hell am I watching? But at the end of the day, he checks every box. He checks every box, so I have to put Dricus du Plessis at number 7. Maybe if he fought a more grappling-based guy, and if he was a little bit more technical on the feet, and he was better to watch. I don't want to say better to watch because he's very entertaining, but if he was more appealing to the eye and very fluid in his motions, maybe I would put him higher, but I think number 7 is a very decent spot for Dricus du Plessis. I don't want him any lower. You could put him higher if you really want to. You guys are going to get mad at me. The Alex Pereira fans are going to run to the comments. I have Alex Pereira. Skill set is great. I think he is the best striker in UFC history, but at the same time, it's very one-dimensional. How could I put Alex Pereira 1 or even 2 when we have guys who are on that skill level but are just way more well-rounded? Activity, he fights a shit ton. He's saving left, right, and center. He's saving every card he could find. But the skill set, it's literally just the skill set and the opponents he's fought that drags him down, because he finds ways to win. He's not the most well-rounded fighter. He's pretty one-dimensional, but he finds ways to win. However, the guys he's fought, they're not the most well-rounded either. They're pretty much predominant strikers. Yuri Prochazka, striker, poor striking defense. Jamal Hill, these guys are strikers. Khalil Roundtree, striker. If Alex Pereira can go in there and dominate and beat a grappling heavy guy, I know he fought Jan Blachowicz. That was a very questionable decision in my opinion. If Alex Pereira can go out there and show some grappling and beat more well-rounded guys, I'd absolutely put him higher. But the reason I put Alex Pereira at number 6 is, and I've just covered it, he doesn't fight the most well-rounded guys in the world, and he isn't very well-rounded himself. He's very one-dimensional, and he fights one-dimensional guys, so how could I put him any higher? I know his striking is elite, he's very entertaining, and he saves all the cards, but when you really dive into the nuances of his career, he's one-dimensional, and he only fights predominant strikers, so I have to put Alex Pereira at 6, even though I'm a massive Alex Pereira fan, and I do think he can beat a Magomed Ankalaev. And say he beats a Magomed Ankalaev, he'd for sure be higher on my list. We're into the top 5. We are in to the top 5. This is where shit hits the fan. At number 5, I have Alexandre Pantoja. He checks every box, man. He checks every box. He fights a decent amount. He finds ways to win, man. He finds ways to win. This man is an absolute dog. He's got that dog in him. His skill set is pretty damn good, and he's cleaning out his entire division. His recent wins are just the entire division. The dude's lapping guys like Brandon Royval, Brandon Moreno, and he's fought every type of style, so you can't really critique him on who he's beat. The one thing I will critique Alexandre Pantoja on is, I don't even really know how to word this, but I think a guy like Kai Kara-France can beat him. I feel like the blueprint is there for fighters to beat Alexandre Pantoja. If you're dangerous in the pocket, if you have a lot of power, if you're a good striker, and if your scrambling ability and grappling ability, just defensive grappling ability is very high level, I think you could beat Alexandre Pantoja. And I think a guy like Kai Kara-France somewhat fits that mold. So I would pick Kai Kara-France to beat Alexandre Pantoja is. But you want to know why I can't put Pantoja lower is he hasn't lost. He hasn't lost. I could say all these things about, oh, I think this guy beats him and this guy beats him. He hasn't lost to him. So how could I put him lower? I think there are ways to beat him, but he hasn't lost yet, and he checks pretty much every box. His grappling is very high level, and his striking isn't poor. It's not like a vice versa Alex Pereira type thing. No. Pantoja is an elite grappler, elite wrestler. He's tough. He has decent power. His chin's very good. His striking is sloppy, but he makes it work. So his skill set is very well-rounded. He fights a lot. His recent wins are awesome, and he finds ways to win. So I was thinking of putting Alexandre Pantoja at number 5 or at number 3. 5 is the lowest I could really go for Pantoja because he fits the mold of what I'm looking for in the best champions. He fits the criteria. He checks off every box, but the guys above him just do it to a higher level, in my opinion. Moving on to the 4th best champion in the UFC, I have Merab Dvalishvili. Activity, he fights. Recent wins are great. Petr Yan, Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley, lots of different stylistic matchups. I think that's very big. If you could beat a lot of different fighters, that's big. It proves that you are well-rounded in and of yourself. That's even how you say it. I'm not too sure, but he fights a lot. He finds ways to win. His recent wins are solid. The skill set's probably the lowest thing, but it's also kind of the best thing because he's not all too well-rounded. When you go in there and you're about to fight a Merab Dvalishvili, you know what's going to happen. He's going to try to wrestle fuck you for 40 or for 25 minutes. You know what's going to happen. But the problem is nobody can fucking stop it. I don't care if his striking sucks. I don't care if his striking defense is all that good. This is the only exception. This is the only guy where you can make an exception for him. His grappling it's a cheat code. It is a literal cheat code. He can be shit. I know I've talked about being a well-rounded fighter, but when you are a literal cheat code in something, does it really matter? I don't see guys that beat him. Who beats Merab Dvalishvili? I don't really know. So his skill set, sure, it's maybe here, but his ability to win is up here. The recent wins are up here. Activities like here. But when you just don't lose, and I think you're a cheat code, and I don't know how you lose, I don't know who can beat you, you're going to be very, very high on the list. So you can criticize his striking all you want, but when you don't lose, where do you want me to put him? So at number 4, I have Merab Dvalishvili. Let's move on to the top 3. At number 3, Tommy Aspinall. Get in there. Get in there. Tom Aspinall is a top 3 champion, in my opinion. Let's go through the criteria. Activity. He fights a lot. Ability to win. He's destroying everybody in like 1 minute. Skill set, in terms of the heavyweight division, I think he's the best we've ever seen. He could grapple. He could strike. He's got stupid power. And his recent wins are solid because he's doing what the UFC put in front of him. He's beating the Curtis Blades in 1 minute. He's beating the Sergey Pavloviches on short notice. But the thing is, he can't prove himself against the best of the best. Tom Aspinall is beating the guys in the heavyweight division. He is running through the guys in 1 minute. He is showing he has a shit ton of power. He is showing his skill set is well-rounded. He wants to fight everybody. So how can I put a guy like Jon Jones above Tom Aspinall? There's simply no way. And I do think Tom Aspinall absolutely destroys Jon Jones. And I am very, very confident of it. If you guys don't follow my TikTok, it's the same name as on here. I have like 24,000 followers. I've been pretty damn adamant about Tom Aspinall beating Jon Jones. Tom Aspinall checks every damn box, man. Activity, skill set, he's very well-rounded. He beats the shit out of people, and his recent wins are solid. I simply cannot critique Tom Aspinall. Where do you find the flaws in this guy? I simply don't see it. Maybe if he loses to Jon Jones, yeah, I'd drop him a good amount of places, and I put Jon Jones. If Jon Jones beats Tom Aspinall, I'll put him top 3, sure. But as of right now, one guy doesn't want to fight the other. One guy is fighting the older guys in the division. One guy is barely fighting, and then on the other hand, it's Tom Aspinall. Simple. So I got to put Tom Aspinall at number 3. You could argue maybe a Merab going above him, but Tom Aspinall looks kind of unbeatable. He's destroying guys in 1 minute. I got to put Tommy Aspinall at number 3, but this is where it gets even more spicy. We're on to the top 2. You know who's the top 2. This should be in everybody's top 2. We have Islam Makhachev and we have Ilia Topuria. At number 2, I have Islam Makhachev. I don't think he is the best fighter in the world. He's very active. He fights a lot. Skill set, elite. Absolutely elite. Otherworldly. This dude is one of the most skilled fighters in UFC history. Recent fights, great. He's beating everybody. His ability to win is very good. But the reason I have Ilia Topuria 1 and Islam Makhachev 2 is because Ilia is doing it much easier. Islam Makhachev struggled against a shorter Alexander Volkanovski. I see ways in which people can beat an Islam Makhachev. This is a crazy comparison. Say Ilia Topuria goes up to lightweight. I see ways in where he could beat Islam Makhachev. I feel like if fighters back Islam up, because Islam is a counter striker now, so he is fine with moving back and, putting his back up against the cage. If somebody can do that, a shorter guy with a lot of power, if somebody can back up Islam, get in the pocket, I could see a knockout, because sure, his striking defense is very, very good, but that's mostly when you're in the center of the octagon and he's counter-striking, he's kind of seeing what you're doing, he's slipping out of range, but when his back is up against the cage, I've seen it before. Sometimes he gets clipped and he immediately goes for a takedown. And I feel like a guy like Ilia Topuria can beat Islam Makhachev, and I'm going to pick Ilia Topuria to beat Islam Makhachev. And at number 1, I have Ilia Topuria. I think he is the best champion right now. He fits every mold. He fits the criteria. I think he is the most skilled featherweight we've ever seen. His recent wins over Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway are more dominant than Islam Makhachev's recent wins. And I think Ilia Topuria's wins are more impressive. In terms of the skill set, I already said it. I think he's the best featherweight we've ever seen. There are simply no flaws in this man's game. His grappling and wrestling, elite. Look at what he's done before the UFC. It is submission after submission after submission. His boxing, the best in UFC history. So tight, so fluid. The ability to go from the body to the head is elite. And when he uses his kicks, they're insane. He chopped the lead leg of Max Holloway. He chopped the lead leg of Alexander Volkanovski. And this dude has worldly power. I don't know how you beat Ilia Topuria. He's beaten the best guys. He showed to me he's the best featherweight ever. He fights a decent amount. His recent wins are great. And his ability to win is knocking fucking guys out in 3 rounds. Ilia Topuria is the best champion we have in the UFC right now. I wouldn't be surprised if this man goes down as the GOAT. I think he beats guys like Diego Lopez, Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling, Alexander Volkanovski again. I think he beats these guys. I just don't see a single flaw in Ilia Topuria's game. I know people are going to bring up, oh, he was head kicked. He was head kicked by Jai Herbert. That was a while ago, and he went up a division. I just don't see that happening again. Literally any fighter could get caught. And in that same fight, literally right after the head kick, he got a takedown and then slept him right after. So Ilia Topuria is the best champion we have in the UFC right now. Belal Muhammad is the worst champion we have in the UFC right now. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Go to war. Go to war in that comment section. Like, subscribe. I'm on the road to 10,000 subscribers. I want to get there pretty damn soon. I'm going to start to post consistently. If this is the content you guys want to see, put it in the comment section. This was fun. Ilia Topuria, the best champion in the UFC right now. Peace out.